This is 2 Esdras 12:3, and it reads, "And I saw, and behold, they appeared no more, and the whole body of the eagle was burnt, so that the earth was in great fear. Then awakened I out of the trouble and trance of mind, and from great fear, and said unto my spirit, Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahushai, Brakatah Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rechak. Double honor to the elders and apostles who labor faithfully in this truth, and all the true teachers of Israel today. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, Habayath, Madabadah, the brothers laboring on the four corners of the earth, day in and day out, to make their calling of election sure. Help us seal the elective nation of Israel for the return of our Lord and Savior, Hamashiach Yahushai. To you I say shalom, and send peace, blessings, love, and salutations. And to the Akim and Agwathim, the brothers and sisters who also listen and believe on Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, who also make up the body of a Mashiach. To you, I say shalom as well. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying for those that have eyes to see and ears to hear through the Rechak Wadash. And we're going to jump right into it because this particular article, is about Brexit. And Brexit goes into the British exit. That's what it's short for. Brexit is short for the British exit. And that British exit is speaking of the exit of the the nation of England, the Brits from the European Union, which is the stage has been set for this to happen over the last about 3 to 4 years. It's been spoken of. So all the finalities of that happening is going on now, which is prophecy, because the European Union is known as the beast in the Bible, and NATO, which is accompanied by the United Nations as well. But England wanting to leave the European Union is a heavy part of prophecy, because all of these are domino effect prophecies. It's going to lead to the beast is going to hate the whore and burn her with fire. And the whore, speaking of America, Babylon the Great. So the EU and NATO is the beast system when you read in the scriptures. And the whore rides the beast, meaning they are one. And they are of one mind. But the UN plays another vitally important role. Although it's not, a part of the beast per se, the role that the UN plays is still headed by predominantly the beast and the whore, America. So the United Nations, the other nations that's joined into Babylon the Great, has been created. The UN, when you look it up, was created to keep peace among nations. So the other nations that have joined in with the EU and NATO, which is the beast, they've joined in, for proposed peace. And those nations are to keep peace and of the United Nations, and to keep, more nations from gathering, or harnessing nuclear proliferation, meaning the ability to acquire ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. And this also is to stop the spread of that technology, to other nations, other so-called rogue states. So that was part of the EU, NATO, which is the beast plan, was to have other nations around the planet to join in, which I believe is over 70 nations, that have joined in. And their job is to continue to push, the power of the beast and the whore, which is America, Babylon the Great. That's why it's all the nations the scriptures speak of over and over again, how they fornicated with the whore. They follow the whore, who is in league with the beast, the EU. So this British exit is a big part of prophecy. So I'll read a little bit of it. It says, European diplomats say a Brexit deal has been tentatively agreed, but EU governments could not reject any text that negotiators put forward. It says, it comes after senior aides to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said earlier in the day that both sides are in the final phase. So it's the final phase of the Brits leaving the European Union. It says an agreement is in the air, said one source close to the talks. The bloc's chief negotiator, Michael Barner, told MEPS on Tuesday that Christmas Eve was the final deadline to seal an agreement, and avoid a possible short-term no-deal Brexit. Ambassadors have been told to pencil in one meeting for Thursday, but diplomats from the 27 member states urge caution. Agreements hinge on fishing rights. So this is going into some very small key specifics on what's going to allow this British exit to be done. Continuing on, it says deal done. British broadcaster Sky News reported that the deal is done, but aides to David Frost told DW that the UK team is still negotiating. Now this, article came out today, which is December the 23rd, about 7 to 8 hours ago. So now it says a UK government spokesperson declined to comment on which outstanding issues were left to be threshed out. Sources close to Barner say that the rules preventing unfair competition and how to police a deal have largely been agreed. Officials in Brussels worried that the UK would try and undercut European firms, gaining an unfair advantage over companies across the channel. If both sides fail to meet the January 1st deadline, it is unclear what conditions trade would take place before a deal would eventually be approved. Over the past few days, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and EU Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen have been in contact by phone seeking to unblock negotiations. So this goes on, speaking of what the major point is, which is that the British exit is being finalized, which is figures heavily in prophecy, because now you have a lot of the EU, the European nations, speaking about what is that going to mean moving forward, creating their own military, their European military, and not having an individual, state or nation specific military, but an entire military of the EU, because the United Nations being heavily run by America, and then the nations not trusted America anymore, making new alliances with other countries. So the European Union is doing that currently within themselves. So what does all this mean? Well, when you read Revelation, I started in 2nd Esdras 12 and 3. Before I get to Revelation, I'll deal with that. It spoke about how the whole body of the eagle was going to be burned, and great fear was going to be on earth, because the Brexit is part of the beginning of the European Union turning on America when we get further into prophecy. So when this happens, what's going to happen is this dream, this vision that the prophet Ezra or Esdras was given. He saw the Edomites, their entire system being burned and destroyed. So this figures very heavily into prophecy. Why? Because Babylon the Great is going to fall as well. So let's go to Revelation 17. It's a big part of the eagle, the whole body of the eagle being burnt, as we read in 2nd Esdras 12 and 31. And we'll go back to 2nd Esdras here in a little bit and read further down, going into part of that prophecy. Now, when you go into 2nd Esdras 12, it coincides, with Revelation, the 17th chapter when you read it, with distinction. Now, this entire chapter is a good chapter to read, to go into it, but I want to get more into the point, and the point is found here in, and I'll start here in verse 8. It says, the beast, which is the European Union, that thou sawest was and is not. It says, it shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, which is Europe. That's why many of the Edomites on the planet call themselves European, up in Europe, because Europe is known as the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, which is destruction. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, which is 2/3 of the nation of Israel and the rest of the heathen. It says they're going to wonder. It says, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is, meaning they're not going to know what to make of who the beast is and what's going on in these last days. Only the prophets, the Lord said he would do nothing but reveal his secrets unto the service of the prophets. Only the prophets, truly know, understand, and can teach this to those who can receive it. which is the believers, the elect. It says, here is the mind which hath wisdom, which is the mind of the elect, the chosen, the anointed ones. Starting with the 144,000. The 7 heads or 7 mountains, it says, on which the woman sitteth. So those 7 heads or those 7 mountains, it says, is which the woman sitteth, which is Babylon the Great. The 17 chapters speaking about Babylon the Great. And those 7 mountains in Revelation 17 is getting into Greece, Rome, Spain, Russia, France, Germany, England. And then as we keep reading, the 8th is America that's going to come out of England. So this is part of the understanding of this prophecy. So those are the 7 heads. Those are the great mountains, on which the woman sitteth. So this is the whole system, of the wicked. The EU, which is the beast. America, which is Babylon the Great, the whore. And the America sits on top of, these nations, meaning they have one mind. Verse 10, Revelation 17:10, there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Verse 11, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. So the beast, so of this whole beast of Esau, Edom, you have the beast, the EU, and who comes out of him? He's the 7th, which is once again going into England, and of him is the 8th, which is America, that came out of England, starting with the settlers that came over here, from England, and started settling America as the original 13 colonies. It says he is of the 8th and goeth into perdition, because it's Babylon the Great who's going to be destroyed. Verse 12, Revelation 17:12. And the 10 horns, which is the 10 common markets, which is a part of that beast system, which thou sawest, are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. We know 1 hour to the Lord. When you 1 day to the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1 hour to the Lord is 41 years. So a day is 1,000 years. And 1 hour to the Lord, when you divide 24 hours into 1,000, you get 41.6. So 41 and a half years is 1 hour. So they have this 1 hour, which is that time period is from when you go to the beginning of what was the European Union first, which was the European Economic Community in 1958, which is also known as the EEC. From that time to the new formal name of the European Union, which has been given, was in 2000. So you add the 58 plus the 41.6, you get right at 2000. You get 99. So that 99 was going into when it was formed, and then in 2000, the European Union was unveiled. Why is that important? Because right here, verse 13, it says these. The European Union and America, Babylon the Great, these have one mind. So that shows you the time from 1958, the 41 years, which is the 1 hour with the beast. They have one mind. And what is that one mind? Meaning they're like-minded, meaning they're in one accord. They're in agreement. They're in agreement as of now, because we're going to read about how the beast is going to hate the whore and going to burn her with fire. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Verse 14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and Kings of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So those that are with the Lord are called, chosen, and faithful, which is the angels and the elect that's going to be delivered. Continuing on, verse 15, and he said unto them, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth, which is America, are peoples and multitudes, nations, and tongues. So, those waters, America sits in all the nations. They have bases and consulates and embassies in, all 4 corners of the earth. So that shows that that's Babylon the Great. Verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. So they're going to hate the whore, showing that the European Union is going to turn on America, the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Eating her flesh is symbolic of completely destroying this place. You're going to eat her flesh with sending missiles over here, as many of the other nations are going to do the same. So they're going to send the missiles to this place. That's what's going to eat her flesh and burn her with fire, which is completely annihilate this place, because this is the prophecy and the will of the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Verse 17, for the Most High hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will. See, the Most High is pushing this, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So this is going to happen until the fulfillment of this prophecy, which is going to be the actual deliverance, of the elect. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, speaking of America, Babylon the Great, Lady Liberty, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So now we see this prophecy is breaking down perfectly what these moves that we see constantly made day in and day out, week in and week out, which this Brexit move is another part of that, pushing that prophecy. So now we keep hearing the beast is going to hate the whore and burn her with fire, etc. Let's go to Matthew 10 real quick, get a quick precept. Matthew 10, let's go to verse 34. This is what Yahweh Shah said. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace but a sword. So the Lord said that because, the fulfillment of this prophecy is going to bring great war and death and destruction unto the earth and to Babylon the Great, which is America, and many other nations as well. But primarily the Babylon the Great, this is where the lake of fire the Bible speaks of is going to be. It's going to be America. So the Lord said, I came not to send peace but a sword. Now, continuing on, let's go back to 2nd Esdras, the 12th chapter, where we started. When you go back to 2nd Esdras 12, I was at 3. Let's go down now to verse 31. 2nd Esdras 12 and 31, and it reads, and the lion, which is symbolic of Hamashiach Yahushua and the nation of Israel here, speaking specifically, and the lion whom thou sawest rising up out of the woods, and those woods are speaking of amongst the other nations, and roaring, and that roaring is the elect, speaking against Babylon the Great, the awakening of the 144,000 on the four corners of the earth, and speaking to the eagle. So that's the speaking to the eagle is what the lion is doing, which is Israel, and rebuking her for her unrighteousness. So what's going on as we see the elect waking up on the four corners of the earth is the elect are speaking to the eagle, but rebuking her for her righteousness, speaking about all of the wickedness of this place, how the Most High is going to destroy Babylon the Great, in this prophecy, how the beast is going to hate the whore and burn her with fire. It says, with all words which thou hast heard. This is the anointed. So these are the anointed ones, or the elect, also known as the elect, the Bakayar in the Hebrew. It says, which the highest hath kept from them and for their wickedness unto the end. So the Most High is going to preserve the anointed, the elect. He shall reprove them and shall upbraid them with their cruelty. And that cruelty, once again, is going to be the beast is going to hate the whore and she's going to burn her with fire. That there's going to be great judgment going out, to Babylon the Great. And a big part of that judgment is going to come from their chief ally right now, the European Union, known as the beast in the Bible. Verse 33 or verse 34, for he shall set them before him alive in judgment and shall rebuke them and correct them. And that's how the Lord is going to do that, by having America, Babylon the Great, get destroyed. Verse 34, for the rest of my people shall he deliver with mercy those that have been pressed upon my borders, and he shall make them joyful until the coming of the day of judgment. And that joyful, spirit is the spirit of truth coming back on the elect, knowing that the Most High has not left nor forsaken the elect, because he's given us this truth and given us understanding to be able to interpret prophecy and be able to speak to our people the words of prophecy in hopes of continuing to seal the elect. It says, whereof I have spoken unto thee from the beginning. So the Lord spoke this from the beginning of time. Now, why is that important? Because this is a prophecy that's going on currently, right now as we speak, that, the lion is rebuking the eagle, and this is leading to more and more prophecies is pushing forth the beast hating the whore and burning her with fire, as it said in Revelation 17 chapter. So that was, that was pretty much the gist of what I wanted to get. Just going into that quick prophecy, daily prophecy update. The Brexit is continue to push forth, this ultimate, judgment that's coming to Babylon the Great, America, which this place is going to be destroyed with thermonuclear fire. See if I can get one more precept of the Spirit. This place is going to be destroyed with thermonuclear fire. Let's go get one more precept through the Spirit, see if I can pull it up. Yeah, here it is. Another precept is going into that. Precept going into the destruction of America, Babylon the Great. This is Revelation 20 and verse 11. Let's see. Matter of fact, Revelation 20 and 10, and it reads, "And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone," speaking of Esau, Edom, "where the beast and the false prophet are," which is the beast, the European Union, and the false prophet is the Roman Catholic Church and the Christian Church. It says, "It shall be tormented day and night forever and ever." Verse 11, "And I saw a great white throne, and on him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them." Speaking of when Yahweh Shah come back. "And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before the Most High, and the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life," speaking of the elect that's going to get delivered. "And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works." So if a man's going to be escaped, he's going to be escaped by his faith and his works, right? Speaking of the elect. Verse 13, Revelation 20 and 13, "And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every man according to their works." So everyone's going to be judged according to their works. Those that die are going to be the first ones in the chariots, scriptures tell us, and by their faith and their works. If you die, in this ministry, being a servant of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, that's the rewards. They'll be the first ones, the martyrs, etc. Verse 20, Revelation 20 or verse 14, Revelation 20 and 14, "And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire." So that's that lake of fire they're speaking of here in Babylon the Great, America. It says this is the second death. The first death we know was the flood. This is the second death of the Lord that's going to come onto the earth. "And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." So that's going to be the fate of Babylon the Great, which is America in the scriptures. This place is going to be completely destroyed. You read in Jeremiah 50 and 51, it says that Babylon can't be healed. So that's the fate of Babylon the Great, America in the Bible. Lord willing, that was edifying. Barakateh Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, Kal Halal Yamla, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash, double honor to the elders and apostles. Also want to say Barakim to all the brothers laboring in the four corners of the earth, the house of David, Habayath, Mandawadah, to the Akim and Akwathim who also listen and believe on Yahweh Shem Yahushai. To you I say Shalom as well. Shalom.